Welcome to 75 Stories, a podcast created to commemorate the 75th anniversary of Normandale Lutheran Church in Edina, Minnesota.
Hi, my name is Paul Pettersen. I was lead pastor here at Normandale Lutheran Church from 2010 to 2024. And I first want to say thank you for inviting me to be here and to do this. It's an honor to be present in this series, and I look forward to bringing my part to the 75th anniversary. The All Together in One Place campaign began with a conversation with Pastor Chris Nelson in 2013. And I said, well, a primary need we have is our facility is vast, but it's not as functional as a tool for ministry as it needs to be. And it's actually in some ways a detriment to community building because it's too pocketed and people leave from the church too quickly because it's too easy to just go out the door, and all the things we talked about space and the way that it serves community. So once we dug into that, we realized how much was at stake. And so we went underway and really looked at the facility from every corner. And I remember the first adult forum we held around that, and we asked for what do you want to pay attention to, and the number one thing on the list was bathrooms, right? It matters, right? If we went from the bathrooms to the worship space, to the gathering spaces, to the office spaces, to the parking lot, and the whole thing, and it grew, as these things tend to do. We were pleased at the end to say that we were now a facility that brought people in, and if you were new or had been here forever, you had easy avenues into congregational life, and especially fellowship. We just started talking with each other and telling stories on Sunday morning to each other about our lives. And the facility really helped to facilitate that, as it should. And so really ATOP, all together in one place, was trying to draw it together into one place, and that it felt more like one place. So that was a major investment. And I thank the congregation, and I actually am proud of the congregation for meeting that, because it wasn't an easy number for us, and people had to really work hard to get to that. So I'm pleased with the outcome. Why is congregational vision as important as it is? Because within me anyway, I have an ideal. And that ideal is that there's no more noble life than to plant a tree, the shade in which you may never sit. And that it is our human duty to live life in such a way on behalf of those who come after us. I remember standing in front of the cornerstone alongside the worship space, 1959, and the words of the founding pastor, Donald Carlson, who said in front of that cornerstone, "May the people of 2010 give thanks to God for the people of 1959. And so really everything we did and we do together through All Together in One Place, or establishing a columbarium and outdoor worship space and re-preparing a playground for children to enjoy, is all about the fact that our lives are designed to live on behalf of those who come after us. As we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, we now live on behalf of those who come after us. And that's the kind of life succession that keeps our eye on the ball of the present so that the future perhaps can be more beautiful. Where I trip over that is to understand the sinfulness of the world in the magnitude in which we experience it, but to not lose heart, to know that we can still be a part of making the future better than what the present is. This is why I would tell Lisa as often as I could how important her work was, because she lived every day in the lives of the smallest among us and the children, and it's the critical place to prepare the soil of their lives for the future that we won't live in. And to have a congregation that loves its children at the heart of their being is, to me, the whole future that we will never see, and that's as beautiful as it can get to me. When I think about my favorite memories of being here at Normandale, it always comes back to worship and the way in which this congregation sang their praise from the choir on down to the floor and everyone together. Worship was a highlight every single Sunday, and there was always someone in the congregation who had never been there before, which to me was a way in which we were kept honest and authentic about our life together. And so my favorite memories have to do with people who came in new and experienced the beauty of our congregation and worship, the love that we had for one another, and therefore the love that they could receive by becoming a part of us. The other memory that I hold that's, I don't know if it's not a favorite memory, it's the most powerful memory, because I happen to be blessed with the time to serve during COVID. And I would have never in my life imagined 14 months without our gathering, because it's the heart of who we are, is to actually be together and to be in worship. And it's the place where we came to be fed by one another and fed by the music and the preaching and all the ways in which we live out our lives the rest of the week. And to not have that was brutally painful to me. I said all along the way that I'm an in-person person. And to not be in person was just terribly painful, and it left me in places of fear and uncertainty and even despair sometimes about how would the church, our church and all the church, survive this and go forward. And so the favorite part of that memory is that we came back together, not how it was the first Sunday, because we were so isolated from each other and wearing masks, and I had a plexiglass screen in front of the pulpit, and it was only in person by the fact that we could see each other, but the actual experience was nowhere near what I had hoped it would be. And we weathered that. We stuck together. And it took years. And it's still, I'm sure, part of the recovery of congregational life. That to me is a testimony to the congregation's will to be who God calls us to be, that we didn't fold, we stuck together. And there were hardships through all of that recovery. But a favorite memory for me in leadership is that we felt, at least in the time of retirement, that it was back to a place of strength to go forward. People are asking me about how retirement is going, and it's going great. But it's a massive change in one's life. And I've said to people that I talk with about it that I don't know that it matters as much what you did, but that you did it for as long as you did in a regular and daily way. And so the pattern of life shifts dramatically. I hope that I'm a servant throughout my life. And I had the honor and joy and struggle and pain of serving in all of the big things in life as I was a pastor in the church. And now I get to serve in the small things of life. So I was thinking about like Mother Teresa's words that we can do no great things, but only small things with great love. And I get the small things. I get that that's where my life is, and I appreciate it. And it's definitely less stressful than having responsibility for congregations. But that isn't the point of life, to be less stressful, but it's just different. It's different. And so Lisa and I are still growing into what it means to be retired together and working hard at that. When Jesus was confronted about which of the commandments was the greatest, he says, you are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. And then he added to it, and he said, but a second is just like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. For any congregation and every congregation, I would hope that the vision is about the suffering love of Jesus for each other. And when I was given opportunity to give witness to that at Normandale Lutheran Church and how people loved each other, it was worth every ounce of the work and every ounce of the suffering and every ounce of the struggle to see people love each other in that way. And so that's a vision not only for this congregation, but I believe for every congregation, that love would prevail and that love would know how to suffer.
We are so glad you joined us today here at 75 Stories. If you'd like to share your own story, please contact Christy Shepard at kshepard@normluth.org. Join us next week for another story, and share this podcast with your friends and family. We are all part of the Normandale community.